we are on the hunt for what might well be the world's last and only brand new, never been used Honda ATC 250. Is this the bike we hope it is? Is it the holy grail of all-terrain dirt bikes? We sure hope so. All will be revealed in this video. We'll take a look at the turbulent history of these menacing machines. We'll uncover what we hope is one of the dirt bike world's rarest finds. And we'll discuss what kind of price tag a specimen like that might have. But first, let's rewind back to the beginning of our story. The Honda ATC 250 is probably the most infamous dirt bike ever created, for reasons that I'm sure you guys are already well aware of, but we will dive into those reasons and the legend around the ATC a little later in the video. For now, all you need to know is I'm desperate to get my hands on one. I'm seriously keen to get one of these things on the channel. I mean, just look how cool and ridiculous they look. I think we could make some epic content with an ATC. So for the last few weeks, I've been scrolling through eBay to find and see what's available. And as you can see, they are pretty pricey. This is a 1985 Honda ATC 250R, which is, as far as I'm aware, the most desirable and the most collectible of the ATCs that you can get, as far as competition versions anyway. If you're a two-stroke nut like me, this is the bike that you want. And I've heard through a friend that there might be a brand new, never been used, never been started ATC somewhere here in the UK. Which, if true, is absolutely insane, especially if you know the history of how the ATC era came to an end. But I don't actually know what year or even what model that brand new ATC even is. All I know is that it will be completely out of my price range. But regardless, I sent the feelers out there and asked through the grapevine whether we could come and have a look at the bike. And graciously, the owner of that machine has invited us to come up and investigate things further. Can it really be the holy grail of all-terrain dirt bikes? Can it really be a brand new, never been used 1985 Honda ATC 250R? Let's find out. We packed the van with our lights and cameras and hit the road to a secret, undisclosed location somewhere in the UK to meet a private collector who has a crazy inventory of seriously cool machines. But today, we only had one bike on our minds. So, is this the machine that we hope it is? Hell yeah it is! This is a brand new, never been used, never even been started 1985 Honda ATC 250R. The true holy grail of all-terrain dirt bikes. Why is this thing so special? What makes a brand new ATC more interesting than any other created dirt bike in history? And what would something like this cost to buy? I'll explain all after this. We could not make videos like the one you're watching right now without the support of our channel sponsors. Putoline massively supports what we do, so if you enjoy what we do, be sure to check out Putoline next time you need to restock on your motorcycle oils, lubricants, cleaning products and more. Putoline have a very cool feature on their website where you just type in your bike model into the search bar and they'll bring up all of the products that they recommend you need for your machine. So I can look at an ATC 250 and see what Putoline products I need for that bike. There's links and more information in the description down below. As always, a huge thank you goes to Putoline for supporting what we do. To fully explain why this bike is so special, we have to go back to the start of the three-wheel craze. Honda were the first major manufacturer to hit the market with an all-terrain three-wheeler. The Honda US 90 was released in 1969 as a response to Honda dealerships in the US desperately needing something to sell during the winter off-season. This three-wheel all-terrain dirt bike was Honda's solution to that problem. And the fact that it could go anywhere made it very popular with farmers, hunters and off-road enthusiasts alike. Interest in three-wheelers boomed during the 1970s thanks to appearances in TV and film, on shows like Doctor Who, Magnum PI and even in James Bond, so inevitably sales soon followed in big numbers. In 1973, Honda trademarked the name ATC, which stands for all-terrain cycle, and all subsequent Honda three-wheelers came with that moniker. But interestingly, all three-wheel dirt bikes soon became known as ATCs, no matter the brand, kind of like how Hoover became the universal name for vacuum cleaners. Being the first of the big four in this market, Honda were able to get a big leg up over the competition. As well as trademarking the name ATC, Honda also trademarked a lot of the designs and the tech involved in three-wheel dirt bikes, meaning that the likes of Kawasaki and Yamaha would have to pay Honda patent royalties in order to enter the super lucrative three-wheel game, unless they wanted to completely redesign an ATC from scratch. And when I say this was a lucrative scene, I really mean it. The three-wheelers were big business for Honda. At their peak, Honda offered 10 different versions of the ATC, the smallest being the 70cc and the biggest being the 350cc, and the most popular being the 200cc Big Red agricultural machine. It's reported that 500,000 of these 200cc ATCs were sold in a 3-year period. So it's safe to say that there were literally millions of these things tearing up American soil throughout the 1980s, which meant that there were also millions of accidents waiting to happen. If you're a biker of any sort, you'll appreciate that these things would have been super sketchy. Three wheels in this configuration just doesn't result in a safe, stable ride whatsoever. A lot has already been said about just how dangerous these things were to try and tame. Ryan at Fort9 and the guys at Donut Media have done great videos already on that subject. But let me just run through some numbers to reiterate why people were so afraid of these three-wheelers. A US report from 1988 says that 7,000 people per month were injured riding ATVs, with 900 reported deaths in the previous 5 years. And a lot of those incidents involved kids, which caused an outcry from the general public. As the 1980s came to an end, so did the era of the ATC. In 1987, the American Academy of Pediatrics proposed a complete ban of three-wheel dirt bikes, which would stop the sale of both new and used ATCs. The manufacturers were also facing hundreds of lawsuits and potentially billions of dollars worth of refund threats. Due to these safety concerns, and in order to avoid all of these nasty lawsuits moving forward, the manufacturers made a deal with the US Consumer Product Safety Commission to voluntarily cease production of all three-wheel machines and to fund a $100 million ATV safety campaign. And in order to prevent any further sales of new bikes, ATC dealers were instructed to remove the motors and any other common parts from their ATC inventory and then chop the frames in half. This voluntary pause in production was only supposed to last 10 years, But in that time, quad bikes had come along and filled the gap that ATCs once occupied. So when the 10 years was up, the manufacturers never returned to the three-wheel fold. In 2008, a new US legislation was enacted which separated safety laws for 3- and 4-wheel ATVs, which meant that new laws needed to be drafted for 3-wheel dirt bikes. But as of yet, I believe that no new laws have been put in place, which essentially means that importation of any new 3-wheelers has been suspended. And so, that's how the era of the ATC came to an abrupt and unconventional end. And the fact that any new machines left in showrooms were supposed to be destroyed makes this brand new 1985 ATC 250R even more special. Let's take a closer look, shall we? I said earlier that the 1985 ATC 250R in particular was the most desirable, and here's why. For the first 10 years or so of three-wheelers being around, they were a lot more agricultural. Most of them were powered by 4-stroke motors and completely lacked suspension, rather relying on big balloon tyres to soak up bumps and vibrations. But this all changed in 1981 when Honda released their first ATC 250R, the first 2-stroke powered three-wheeler designed specifically for racing. This was a full suspension machine that had a 248cc 2-stroke air-cooled motor and borrowed a lot of componentry from the Honda CR motocross bikes. The second generation ATC 250R came along in 1983 and featured folding foot pegs, a bigger fuel tank and more travel on the suspension as well, and a bigger carb. The third and final generation of the ATC 250R came along in 1985. By that time, both Yamaha and Kawasaki had entered the three-wheel game. They brought out machines in 1984. So Honda really had to step things up in order to remain kings of the category. This bike was radically different, sporting a 246cc liquid-cooled 2-stroke motor that boasted 40% more horsepower than the previous generation. It had a 6-speed gearbox and a gear-driven counterbalancer to reduce vibrations, but it didn't have a power valve. Another update over the previous model was the carb, which changed from a 30mm round side carb to a 34mm flat side carb. It had 39mm air assisted front forks. You can see its trailing axle as well. There was a single remote reservoir Showa linkage shock at the back that provided 9.8 inches of travel. You can see also that this machine has disc brakes, which certainly wasn't common for dirt bikes back in 1985. The chassis was lower, longer and wider than the previous model. There's also a big lightweight aluminium radiator at the front for more efficient cooling. And there was also this new low profile seat to try and improve cornering and handling. This was as good as ATC's ever got. The same bike was produced again in 1986. And I think a few machines did make it off the production line in 1987 before the Karens came along and cancelled three-wheelers for good. But being the first year of this generation, the 1985 ATC 250R is most definitely the most desirable. So here we are up close and personal with our brand new 1985 ATC 250R. There's a couple of things I want to point out. I've been through some of the main features of what Honda did when they updated this bike, but I thought there's some more things that were pretty cool or pretty interesting. So we know that these bikes were dangerous, and obviously Honda knew it too, because there's a lot of warning stickers on this bike. 1, 2, 3 stickers warning riders of what to do and what not to do on this bike. But those warning labels are also actually imprinted into the plastics as well at the front and at the back, which is an extra level of precaution that I don't think I've seen on many other bikes. Even when pushing this bike around, it's dangerous. Like at any normal bike, you just grab the bars, push. You do that, you run yourself over. So it's awkward to push around even in the pits, even out of the workshop. As we said, this is a brand new bike, never been used, never even been started. We can see that, an example of that here. Around the back, there's a little tool holder. You open that up. The tool pack, original tool pack, is still in there. It's a kickstart machine, but the kickstart on this goes forwards. Apparently quite difficult to start, and it's a thumb throttle as well, which in my eyes is going to make it more difficult to ride. This thing is an absolute gem, a specimen. There can't be many of these left in the world, right? So we know that this machine is very, very special. It could well be the one and only, never been used, never been started, brand new Honda ATC 250R left in the world. But I'm sure you guys will tell me in the comments down below if you know the whereabouts of another one. But regardless, there just can't be many of them. A lot of these bikes were sold and a lot of them saw action. And the bikes that did survive brand new were supposed to be destroyed at the end of the three-wheel wave. So a bike like this has to come with a hefty price tag, right? As we saw at the start of the video, an ATC from this era, nicely restored, would set you back about 10,000 Great British pounds. So what would something like this be worth? Brand new, never been used, never even been started. What would it cost? Let me know your guesses, let me know your estimations of what the price tag of this thing would be. Let me know in the comments down below. All I know is, for the moment, I don't think we're going to hear this thing get started today. I think the owner wants to keep it like it is, as new, never been started. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to have some three-wheel action coming to the channel very soon. We've got some very cool ideas that we are going to make happen this summer, so make sure you're subscribed to 999 Laser not to miss the fun. And I've got one more request for you guys. During my research for this video, I came across the American-made Tiger 500, which was the biggest, baddest, most powerful three-wheeler ever made. And of course, I'd love to do a video feature on one of those machines. So if you guys watching know of the whereabouts of a Tiger 500, or even better, if you've got one lurking in your garage, please do get in touch. Message me on Instagram at 999laser, or drop down in the comments below and we'll see that there. I'd love to make a video on one of those bikes, so feel free to get in touch. As always guys, you've been watching 999 Laser. My name is Max. Until next time, I'll see you at the track.